7, let's go. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and march down. Balance with the other leg, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's go. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to go, let's go, push it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we back here. I hope at least you're a bit warm. Okay, now today's workout, we're going to time it in terms of 45 seconds. Okay, 45 seconds, 10 seconds breather. We go to the next one. 45 seconds, 10 seconds breather, and I'm going to be the one doing all the timing. Now, just march. We're going to start with jumping jacks, then we go all the way back to mountain climbers. So jumping jacks, we're only doing them for 45 seconds. Now, variation for jumping jacks. This is what I want. If you can't jump, you can just basically do that. It's still the same thing. Okay? If you have shoulder issues and you can't lift your arms up, it's fine. You can still do that. All right. Okay? Perfect. So now, our 45 seconds timer starts now. Let's go. 1. Push it. 40 seconds to go. Easy stuff. We're just getting started, guys. Welcome on board. If you're joining us, welcome on board. Take your mat, get ready, have your face towel, and join up. Let's go, push it. You're almost there. Again. Push, push. Good stuff, guys. Let's go. Perfect. 10 to 15 seconds breather. From there, tunaingia mountain climbers, down on the floor. Remember, you can still use your mat. You can place your mat down on the floor. There, let me put my timer. And we're ready to go. Twende kazi. We're there. Remember, you can do fast. If you're into speed, you can go faster. If you can't, easy. Position, form, very important. I don't want you to make a bump. I don't want you to sulk in or sink in. You might injure your back. Try to engage your core. Be flat and take it easy. There. Slow. If you want to challenge yourself to speed, then you're welcome. Twende kazi. Hapo. Alright. Twende, guys. Push it. Still have time. 10 more seconds to go. You're doing fine. You're doing fine. You're doing super, super fine. 10. For 3, for 2, and 1. Good job. Rest it up. Taking another 45 seconds of push-ups. Variation for push-ups. Once more for anyone who might have joined us doing 2 push-ups. You can do this push-up. If you can't, put your knees down somewhere comfortable and go there. The motion I don't want you to leave your bum up. I don't want this. I want you to take as if you want to kiss the floor and take your bust, or for the men, take your chest down on the floor. There. Then come back up. All right. Form, very important. We ready? Our 45 seconds starts now. Twende kazi. Hapo. If you can't, remember, put your knees down on the mat or on the floor, anywhere, just go down. Easy. There. Easy. You're only competing with yourself. The biggest competitor you have is yourself. No one else. Okay? We need to build muscles. Your own body muscles. And this is the only way to go about it, guys. We need to strengthen our bodies. Stay home. Stay safe. And stay physically active. This is the new normal, guys. I kid you not. 3 more to go. And it's a wrap. Good job. From there, tunaingia crunches again. Once more for another 45 seconds. Here, I want you to use your mat. Lay it down, be very comfy. Couple. I'm loving it, I kid you not. I know some of you think trainers never get kuchoka, boss. We also get tired. These things is not jokes, eh? You ready? Perfect. Timer starts. There, let's go. I welcome anyone who wants to challenge themselves. If you feel you can challenge yourself and do something different, you can do that. If you feel one leg is too easy, you can do both legs. Up. All right. Choose your own battle. Pick your battle wisely. Let's go. Push it. This is all I need, guys. Up. Go on your own pace. Your own pace, your own count. Yeah, let's go. 10 more seconds. Don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. No matter how tough it gets, no matter how much you feel that tummy is like piercing and all that, don't quit. Don't quit. Perfect. Our timer is up. So now we're heading on to the step ups. Remember, safety very important in your house. You may have a chandelier up, you may have lights up there. So remember, you don't want to crash. You don't want to cause an incident. So make sure wherever you're going to do your step ups, it's safe and you're able to go as high as you can without injuring yourself or causing any damage to the house. Okay, you ready? Enter. Get ready. And now 45 seconds starts now. Let's go. One leg only. Don't change that leg. Usitoe hiyo mguu hapo. Perfect. Push it. Push it. Aha. Usitoe mguu hapo. Hiyo mguu ikae hapo. Push it. Push it. Good job, guys. You need to feel that. Yeah. Twende kazi. Push it. I'm feeling it as well, trust me. That's the only way we strengthen our legs. That's the only way our muscles get to grow. Okay? Good job. Push it. Perfect. Our time is up. Again, we balance the other leg for another yet 45 more seconds. Are you ready? I am. Get ready. Let's start. Let's go. And breathe. Breathe. Twende kazi. Good stuff. Again, let's go. Uh-huh. 10 more seconds. And stop. Good stuff, guys. From there, tunaingia tricep dips. Same. Using the same stool. Remember, dips, working on our triceps. Okay, we're doing a full body workout, we're doing a full body HIIT. High intensity interval training, guys. You're all doing awesome. Are we good? Tricep dips. I'll do mine on the side so that you're able to see my position, see my posture. I'm there, and we move. Let's go. Twende kazi. Breathe. You've got to breathe. Engage those triceps. Push your body. You can do it. Yes. Twende kazi. I'm feeling it. To your own body, eh? Your own weight. No equipment, just body weight. Twende. Good stuff, guys. Woo! Yeah. Twende. Perfect. Yeah. How are you feeling? Are you loving the challenge so far? So far, so good? Good, good. Remember, I want to hear back from you guys. You need to give us your feedback. We want to know how we're making you feel at home. From there, tunaingia burpees. I'm sure we're ready. We're doing burpees for 45 seconds. Let me demonstrate what I mean by a burpee. There's so many variations when people want to do burpees. Remember, safety up. If you have lights or anything bulbs up over your head, ensure that you're safe, that you don't jump up and you hit something that can injure you or cause damage to the house. Okay, so this is how I want us to do our burpee today. You can do two types. The first one I would recommend is you can go down, chest on the floor, then jump up, then you go up. Okay, that's the first one. Let me repeat it again. Take your hands down, jump back, put your chest on the floor, come up, jump forward, then jump up. First variation. Second variation, you can put your hands down, jump back, give me a push-up, jump forward, then up. Second variation once more. Put your hands down, jump back, give me a push-up, jump forward, and up. That variation for anyone with injuries or anyone who cannot be able to do as fast as possible. Now look, put your hands down, step back, go down, come up, step forward, then up. Another demo again, guys, before we start. Put your hands down, step back, put your body down, come up, step forward, then up. Okay, you have 3 to choose from. Choose your pick. Okay, from there our 45 seconds starts now. Let's go, guys. Mine, I'm here. 1, push it. Remember, if you have lights in your house, if you can't jump as high as I am, you can still just be able to do that. That's enough. Okay, a small elevation on top of your toes. There, that's more than enough. Take it easy, there's no rush. We still have time. Push it. 10 more seconds to go. 10 seconds, you can do it. Push. I can see you, don't quit. And that's it. Our time is up. Relax for another 10-15 seconds as we rest up. Prepare for our next workout. We're going to be doing some jump squats, and I will demonstrate before we start. This is what I mean by a jump squat. Remember, a squat is a flat-footed workout. Don't go on your toes. Your whole body is down, flat foot. Sawa sawa. So if you can do a jump squat, do a normal squat. Easy, nice and easy. In case you have knee injuries or back issues or anything, just there. All you need is just a bit of engagement on your legs, and that's it. Sawa sawa? We ready? I'm ready. My timer starts now. Let's go. Good stuff. Yeah. Remember, you need to land very gently on the floor. Don't hurt yourself. Don't stomp down. Easy. 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 20 more seconds to go, guys. Yes. Push it. Good stuff. Woo, walk those legs. Relax and breathe. We have 2 more stuff to do. Just 2 more, then we're done with the first set. We prepare for the second set. Yeah, it's interesting, eh? You good? I'm also panting. Trust me, can feel it. You ready? From there, we're doing some butt kicks. There. Just hit your bum. Okay? If you can't, if you have knee issues, you can't be able to go that far, just stop there. Okay, we are not here to aggravate any injuries. If you feel any pain, any discomfort whilst doing the workout, stop. All right, stop. So I'm ready. I have 45 seconds for the butt kicks. Start now. If you can do this, even better. If you can't, hapo ni sawa. Hapo ni sawa. There. 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 Okay. Good job. There. Let's go. Five seconds, guys. Let's go. Ten more seconds. Push it. Push it. And your time is up. Good job. Perfect. From there, tunaketi chini. We're gonna do plank. After plank, you're just going to stretch, and that's it. We're going to do 2 plank variation. Okay? The first one, we'll do the traditional plank. Sawa. This is the traditional plank, hapo. Only for 45 seconds. Remember, I want you to put your body flat. Please, flat. We're engaging the core. I don't want to see someone making a hump. I don't want to see, I'm not looking for that. I want it flat. Okay? Look, that flat. That flat. Apple. 45 seconds. You can do it. I kid you not. You can do it. And now 45 seconds. Start now. Twende kazi. This is where you tell Jesus what you want. This is where you confess your sins. Or you sing yourself like a nice song that you actually love, or you remember a nice moment you've ever had in your past growing up. Anything, just about anything to keep you going. Just don't quit. All right? Smile, sing for yourself. You can do whatever you want. Yes, 15 more seconds, guys. We're good to go. Seven more seconds. Hold it. And time up. How long did you manage to hold yours? 45? Not 45. We're getting there. All right. Second plank we'll do a shoulder tap in the plank position. Then we call it a wrap. We do a good stretch and it's a wrap. I know we all love that, eh? The end, the finish. We good? We here. Same principle. Engage your core. Now tap your shoulder. One at a time. You don't have to swing. I know most of us enjoy swinging. Try keep your body straight. There. Up. I'm checking the time for you, don't worry. We're still good. We have 20 more seconds to go. Perfect. Good job. Push yourself. That's why I'm doing it with you guys, to show that it's doable. It's doable. All right. Good. From there, we just do a small stretch, nice firm stretch, and it's a wrap. Okay? Yes. It's never easy, I kid you not. It's never easy. That's why me and you are dedicated and willing and disciplined enough to wake up early in the morning to kickstart our day like this. That's where we reap something that those who are sleeping can only admire. All right, we're here. We're there. Just stretch, relax your muscles and breathe. Just feel it. No rush. And breathe. Good job. Change the other leg. Same. Reach out and breathe. breathe. Perfect. From there, hapo, face backwards. Easy, simple stretches that you can do at home anytime. Just look back. Good job. Change the other side. Stretch it, feel it. Take your time. Don't rush. Don't rush it, guys. Put both your feet forward, up and stretch forward. I know there are those who can touch their knees with their head. When I grow up, I want to be like you. Kid you not. Yeah. I can't. Hii ni ile unaulizwa kama unaweza, unasema hii siwezi. Hii siwezani. Hiyo nimekubali siwezani. We're here. Stretching our hands. The side. Backward. The side. Let's stretch our waist and our back kidogo. There. The other side. Yes. Good. Now I want us to stretch our back kidogo. So tulale tuko hiyo mat and we're done. Tulale tuko hiyo mat kidogo. Hapo. Put your hands down. Jinue juu. Up. Try keep your thighs down. Up. There. For the lower back. Yeah. From there, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in. From here, breathe in. Out. Breathe in. Out. Last one, breathe in. And out. Thank you so much for staying tuned to NTV. Thank you for being part of our NTV Tizi Nyumbani. Stay safe. Tomorrow Eve will grace your screens in the morning, and do enjoy the workout.
Credit to you if you stay at home. If you must shop online, use your NCBA credit card. Stay home. Stay safe. Have you shared your Bongo points with someone who needs them? Remember to help a friend or anyone in need to buy food using your Bongo points. Stay at home, but still stay together with your loved ones and friends using Bongo points. Share your story or video of how you've helped a fellow Kenyan to our FB page NTV Kenya, Twitter page at NTV Kenya, Instagram at NTV Kenya, SMS 20686 or our WhatsApp number 0745 925 002.
No one. Our mission is to monitor extraterrestrial activity on Earth.
Incident report.
Access denied.
There are things out there you don't need to know. That's not the lie you told me when you recruited me.
I promise you the secrets of the universe, nothing more.
Well, you want me to jump? Time jump.
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. fight heartburn and indigestion fast.
Sai niko na watoto wangu nje, sijui nitalala wapi.
Kama kuna corona Kenya tuende kazi.
This disease is not a joke.
I cannot be allowed to take trunks and foodstuffs to my kids.
Danger point number 1 is still public transport.
Due to the pandemic COVID-19, things changed.
Babangu si mtu kuzikwa hivi kama mbwa.
Vile aliona hiyo video alishuka kwa gari na karudi.
4 doctors who are confirmed positive. We have 10 clinical officers.
We need to have full protective gear.
Kenyan textile industry proven that it can produce personal protective gear that doctors require.
I'm going to live at the mercy of God.
Economies are faltering. The skies are empty. Borders are closed. The streets are deserted. Schools have been halted. And what was referred to as work has everyone staying at home and figuring out how to make it work. We are all at risk, and the health of your neighbor is not only dependent on you, but your life or death could also be in their hands. This Wednesday, 15th April 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum from 7 p.m. on NTV with the help of a panel of experts. It shall take a peek into the last 4 months and how COVID-19 has changed the world, the family, the individual, and life as we all have known it.
This pandemic will test us, as it is testing all countries in every corner of the globe, but I don't believe that it will defeat us. If we pull together and everybody does their part, we shall overcome.
Nation Leadership Forum, engaging society, impacting the nation.
This is NTV.
Hello, East Africa. Good morning and welcome to this third edition of Your World, Your New Normal. The world as we knew it has been turned upside down by COVID-19. We're here to keep you company as you adjust to business unusual. It's a show that focuses on your health amidst your changing world. We'll bring you views and experiences from the East African region and the world at large. Now, here's what we have in store for you today. So, food can be distributed without chaos. Well, this is the new normal that we want.
I was on the track for a kidney transplant sometime this year, and it just feels like that has to kind of wait until all the madness dies down.
In the face of this new pandemic, how do people with chronic illnesses survive? We feature the story of one Onana Omodo.
3,000 lives lost, air transport wasn't the same. How much more then can we expect COVID-19 to alter our way of life?
There is a new world order in the making. Just how much will the coronavirus pandemic affect us? Some countries are going on with business as usual. Now let's take a quick look at what's happening across our region from the Daily Nation's Newsplex website. For real-time updates, remember you can visit www.nation.co.ke/newsplex. Now in Tanzania, the figures so far, we have 49 people confirmed positive with the virus. We've got 3 people who've sadly passed on and 7 have recovered.
Our other neighbor to the north, Ethiopia, confirmed cases stand at 74. 3 people have died and 14 have recovered. In Somalia, they have 60 people who've been confirmed positive so far. 2 have sadly died and 2 have recovered. And South Sudan, confirmed cases 4. So far, no recorded deaths, we thank God, and no recorded recovery as yet. Possibly maybe they need to do more testing there. In Uganda, we have 54 people confirmed positive so far. No one has died, and those recovered are 47. In Rwanda, it's 127 people who've been confirmed positive. Nobody has died. 42 have recovered, while the other East African nation of Burundi has 5 confirmed cases, 1 person who's died, and no one has recovered. And back home in Kenya, the numbers are 8,827 people who've been tested, 216 confirmed positive, 9 people have so far died, and 41 people have recovered. That's the situation as it stands right now across the East African region. It's a picture of different scenarios across the different nations of East Africa. Now, let's look at a few stories making headlines across Africa and the East African region. In South Africa, Slum Dwellers International Force and the city of Johannesburg distributed food parcels to waste pickers, street vendors, and car guards to keep them off the streets. The focus of the initiative is to ensure that those who live hand to mouth on a daily basis respect the lockdown and do not go hungry. Now, notice how well the food distribution is, and there's also social distancing throughout the entire process.
If they stay at home, they don't have anything to eat, it becomes a problem. We will find them on the streets. To avoid them loitering on the streets, we have decided with the NGO, which is SDI Force, Bomba Foundation, and Edrich, to go to them and hand over food parcel to them to avoid them being on the streets.
I'm not in the street. Even it is telling to one man who's staying home. I'm staying home. I'm listening for government what is telling. I'm staying home. I'm sleeping. I'm wake up. I'm eat. And now the food was finished. Even sugar is finished. Even salt is finished. And thank you for that because I can eat.
Sadly, the situation here in Kenya is nowhere near what you've just seen. Dozens of people were injured in Kibera during a food distribution exercise. Residents gathered in large numbers at the Deputy County Commissioner's office, hoping to get some food rations. But the orderly event soon went off the rail. Rose Wangoi has more details.
At this time of the coronavirus pandemic, people, especially in the informal settlements, foresee difficulty meeting their daily basic needs, especially food. That's when residents of a section of Kibra slum heard of a food distribution exercise happening at the Deputy County Commissioner's office, they did not hesitate to show up in their numbers. Social distancing or not, this was from ODM leader Raila Odinga's donation of food to help needy families. It wasn't long before drama ensued after it emerged that only selected families with cards would be given food. Some people tried to force their way through this gate. The threat of coronavirus infection after coming into close contact with others was the last thing on their minds. Women were forced to contest with men in the scramble to get a share of the foodstuffs. Some people fell and were trampled on. The injured Muslim women were carried to safety to recover. The flexing of muscles determined who got more food. It would be wrong to fault those who gathered here, since a majority of people in Kibra live hand to mouth, and failure by breadwinners to go out and do casual jobs could mean going to bed hungry.
Kama kuna corona Kenya tuende kazi, hatuwezi kurundikana kwa geti ya chief. Tunangoja msaada. Na ilhali hakuna hiyo msaada tunapata. Kama hakuna kazi, sisi tunaishi kwa manyumba. Kama kuna corona Kenya, serikali tuachie sisi tuende makazi zetu.
The exercise was called off as the injured were rushed to a nearby health center. The motive may have been right, but the result very retrogressive in the containment of the spread of the coronavirus, something the Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has warned about.
When you try to distribute food or money in such a situation, people gather around you. Many people can be infected in that process. You would therefore have caused the sickness or death of those people. Anybody involved in that effort would be arrested and charged with attempted murder.
Such donations around the country are needed. But what should the protocol be? Warungu, NTV.
And joining me in the studio this morning is Dr. Halida Soki, a nephrologist or kidney expert from the Nairobi Hospital. Dr. welcome to NTV, Your World.
Thank you for having me.
How has your own world changed to kick off? Has it?
Coronavirus, I have to say, has changed life for all of us. For us as healthcare personnel, as well as our patients who have kidney disease. And I wonder whether we will actually ever go back to the way that things were before.
How is it? What's the situation in the hospital? Just before we go into the main discussion, what changes have you had to make in time to respond to the pandemic?
So even as we talk about social distancing and staying at home, for example, dialysis patients who have kidney failure don't have that luxury. And yet perhaps they're one of the most vulnerable populations in terms of getting a COVID-19 infection. So these are patients who have to come into the hospital 2 to 3 times a week for their regular dialysis sessions. So we can't keep them at home. We've had to adjust the way that we move, the way that we work within the hospital to accommodate them and make sure that they do not get infections. As a hospital, we are prepared for increase in cases. As we know, we haven't yet managed to flatten the curve. So we have an isolation ward. We have the capacity to increase the number of beds in the isolation wards. We have encouraged people not to come to the hospital unless absolutely necessary. The outpatient clinics for chronic diseases actually have been closed, except for very critical antenatal care and pediatric wellness clinics. And of course, the casualty has to continue working. So in ourselves, we are waiting. We are ready. Things have completely changed.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, this morning we want to focus a little bit about chronic illnesses or chronic diseases.
Yeah.
They've been mentioned quite a lot in the pandemic. People who live with these conditions said to be, at a much higher risk of, developing serious, symptoms of COVID-19. Let's start from the beginning. When we say chronic illness, what do we actually mean?
So when we're talking about a chronic illness, we're talking, an illness is one of your organ systems perhaps not functioning as it should. And by chronicity, what we mean is an illness that has lasted usually more than 3 months. So these are people who are living with an illness that is not likely to be cured, but we are able to manage it. And so you have a situation where you can have a mild illness, for example, eczema, which doesn't interfere usually much with your own life, or something that could end up being life-threatening in itself, like heart failure or kidney failure. So there's a wide spectrum of chronic diseases.
Okay, and I think we got an example here this morning now to set up the discussion properly. Let's meet Onana Omodo, a dialysis patient with a chronic kidney condition. She shares her experience of being a high-risk patient in this season of the corona pandemic.
My name is Onana Omodo, and I work at an NGO as operations lead. My diagnosis is chronic kidney disease. Yes, brought about by an initial kidney disease. Basically, my kidneys are not functioning the way they're supposed to. Both of them, not just one. So they are compromised. So chronic kidney disease basically means that it's a long-term condition. It's been there and it's probably going to be there for a while yet. My initial diagnosis was about 10 years, and then I was in some form of remission for a while. So I've had kidney issues for the last 20 years. I started my dialysis on the 12th of June 2017. I cannot say I like it. I've gotten to a point where I've gotten used to it. I appreciate that it's only twice a week as opposed to every other day or 3 times like some people. Initially, I did not foresee it interrupting my day-to-day process, but being considered high risk changed that for me. So it ended up being that I started working from home almost immediately there were cases, and literally the only time I leave the house is coming here, then I go back home. So that kind of shifted my world almost entirely. Other than the mask and the obsessive hand washing, staying home has been the biggest one for me. Yeah. We are social beings. We're supposed to be cooped up in the same room 4 days out of the entire week. This is personal to me. I was on the track for a kidney transplant sometime this year, and it just feels like that has to kind of wait until all the madness dies down before I can actively pursue that again. So that's my biggest fear, is that it'll maybe not happen this year, but I remain optimistic that post this, things can go back to normal schedule. Yeah.
Now, watching Onana there, a couple of things I observed. First of all, she's got her mask on, so obviously the world in the hospital, as you said, yes, is changing. She spoke about dialysis, which is, you know, one key thing that sustains this. But what else do you do when you've got that kind of condition or a chronic kidney illness? How do you manage it?
How do we manage the illness, or
yes,
how do we manage the illness in the time of COVID?
Well, first of all, just the illness, normally, before we bring in COVID.
So, as I talked about chronic diseases, we talked about a spectrum. So that means that perhaps, let's take the kidney as an example. Your kidney doesn't function the way it should. So the easiest way to explain this perhaps is that when we are born or when we're younger, usually people would have between 80 to 100% kidney function, and that's both of your kidneys working together. And when we get a kidney disease, what happens is that goes down. So we don't usually end up in kidney failure within 1 day, unless now that's an acute kidney injury compared to chronic, what we were talking about. So we see a steady decline in kidney function, going down from 80 to 60 to 40 to 20%, and finally less than that, where we term it as kidney failure. And the kidney is an excretory organ, so we are constantly producing waste, and that waste has to come out, and one of the forms that it does is in the form of urine. So when you have kidney disease, that doesn't happen as well as it should, and there's an accumulation of waste in your body that makes you feel sick. It doesn't allow the other organs to function as they should. So what we do first is you have to treat the underlying cause of the kidney disease to try and make the kidney disease not get worse. And if you can, make it get better. If you can't do that, then we manage the symptoms of the disease. So even as we're treating what's causing the disease, for example, a common cause of kidney disease is diabetes. You have to control the diabetes so that the kidney doesn't continue to get damaged. As we do that, we also take care of the symptoms or the issues that are caused by the fact that your kidneys are not working very well.
What are the symptoms?
So for example, one of the issues with kidney disease is you won't start to notice symptoms until many times kidney function is less than 30% or 20. And then at that point, you'd start to feel sick, nauseous, itchy, you can't sleep. Many times your legs would be swollen or your face is puffy and you feel short of breath because of accumulation of fluid in your lungs. So those are features of kidney disease. including symptoms of anemia, which is caused by kidney disease. That's a low blood level. So feeling tired all the time, poor concentration, shortness of breath, dizziness, palpitations, things like that.
And just if we can spool back a little bit,
yeah.
How do we end up with kidney disease in the first place?
Yeah, so you can have a systemic disease in your body that affects the kidney, or you can have an intrinsic disease within the kidney that affects the kidneys. So an extrinsic disease or a systemic disease is like diabetes affecting the kidney, causing diabetes, kidney disease, or lupus causing lupus kidney disease. And then, or you can have a disease that only affects the kidney. So those are inflammatory diseases of the kidney, usually called glomerulonephritis. And they affect the filtration function or the tubules within the kidney, and all of those, both kidneys are affected. So one of those could affect the kidney, causing the kidney to be unable to do its function.
Right. So that's before COVID.
Yes.
Now let's introduce the new coronavirus.
Yes.
What happens in this environment, for someone who has a chronic condition?
So I know that people who've had chronic conditions at this time have been severely challenged, and we're doing our best to try and overcome that. Mainly because people who have chronic conditions, we have to manage them. We're not many times able to cure the condition. And so they have regular visits to their doctor and the hospital, which has been unable to happen at this time. One of the major issues, for example, especially if somebody complicates at night and we're on a curfew and there's no taxi and you don't have your own car, how are you going to get to the hospital? So we've been having complications like that. For people who regularly need to visit their doctors, for example, I would usually see the dialysis patient or the chronic kidney disease patient once a month or once every 2 months. They've been unable to come to the hospital. Our clinics are closed. Many medications are unable to come into the country, so we've been having shortages of medications. So these patients are left on their own and can easily deteriorate into a failure or to complicate. So we've had challenges. We're trying to overcome them. If they come into the hospital, we are trying to get them to come into the hospital as least amount of time as possible, as short a duration as possible, because that's when they're likely to get an infection with COVID-19.
And so the challenge with COVID-19 is that it causes internal organs failure, and kidney will be one of those that are affected. Is that right? So
interestingly, COVID-19 is an infection that affects primarily the lungs. We are seeing other organs being affected. For example, we are getting cardiac issues, we're getting kidney issues, we're getting neurological issues, but primarily it's the lung that's affected, and your lungs are the way that you usually get oxygen into your body. Right. And so because of that, all other systems eventually get affected by COVID-19 in a severe infection.
So for people who may need to come to hospital maybe 2-3 times a week, if you end up being caught up at home, you can't move, you can't get to hospital for help, what do you do?
So that cannot be allowed to happen, especially for kidney patients. It
Right.
cannot. And we're working very hard to make sure that that doesn't happen. As we talked about, the kidney is an excretory organ. If you don't go for dialysis, a dialysis machine, what we saw there is a kidney. That's what it is. It cleans the blood. So if we don't get dialysis patients in to do their dialysis sessions, then all of those toxins accumulate in their blood and they're not able to, well, it's life-threatening, actually. So it cannot be allowed to happen.
Any tips to people who may be carers or caregivers at home, for example?
So we've actually even put a pamphlet together for the caregivers. Most kidney patients will have a caregiver who walks with them. We've given them advice on how to make sure that the home is safe, not only for them, but for the kidney patient.
How do you do that, actually?
It's the same things that we've been telling everybody else.
Right.
So it's social distancing, it's isolation, it's don't leave your home, because that's the way you'll come into contact with other people who are able to infect you. Hand washing and the liberal use of hand sanitizer to make sure that if you do get contaminated, this is usually where you would get contaminated and then transfer it to your nose, your mouth, your eyes, that could cause you to get infected. If you have to leave the house, like for example dialysis patients, then you have to wear a mask. If you can use private means, which I know is a luxury and might not be available to some, if you can use private means, then use private means to get to the hospital to reduce your contact with other people. And try and reduce the amount you spend in the hospital and outside the house as much as possible.
And now, God forbid, when you have a nightmare scenario where a person living with a chronic kidney condition also tests positive for corona, are you preparing for such eventualities? And
Yes,
what do you do?
And we've had scares.
Right.
We've not yet had a kidney patient being diagnosed, or at least an end-stage renal disease patient being diagnosed with COVID-19 in the country, but we've had scares. And in the eventuality which we are preparing for, we have, within the hospital, we have prepared to dialyze within the isolation ward. We have the luxury of that at Nairobi Hospital.
So you isolate them?
We completely isolate. We will admit and we will isolate, and we will continue with dialysis within the hospital. Many units within the country and many dialysis patients don't have that luxury once again. As the Kenya Renal Association, we have formed a WhatsApp group and try to include most of the dialysis units, if not all the dialysis units within the country. We are hoping in this way to be able to brainstorm and troubleshoot in case one of the dialysis patients become positive for COVID. They can't stay home. We can't tell them to stay home. They have to come in for dialysis. So how are we going to make sure that the other patients within the dialysis unit do not become infected by this patient, that the healthcare personnel within the dialysis unit do not become infected by this patient? We have, as the Kenya Renal Association, we have published guidelines towards this, advising dialysis units and centers around the country what they're going to do. And then, of course, there's the fear for the patient themselves, because these are immunocompromised patients. In me and you, perhaps, though COVID does not spare, the infection might not be that severe. But in these patients, it is likely to become severe. So the first thing is to try and prevent them from getting infected in the first place. If they do get infected, we need to offer full supportive care as required.
Are there any lessons you might have picked from other countries in Europe, for example, or Asia, who've had to deal with the worst of this crisis?
So we're in constant touch actually with them. Our initial guidelines came from China and from Italy, and then we've had to adjust them for our own centers within our own country, how we're going to function. Perhaps in those countries they have the privilege of building new centers, or the privilege of having all of the costs of dialysis taken care of, but we don't have that. So how are we going to ensure that our own people are going to be able to function at this point? So we've had to adjust, but we're in constant touch with them.
Now this show, Your World, looks at the whole spectrum of wellness and health.
Yes.
So away from the doom and gloom,
yes.
How do we get to look after our kidney in the first place? What tips would you share?
So especially for those people who are at risk of getting kidney disease, diabetic patients, hypertensive people, the main thing is to ensure that you make sure that these diseases are well controlled so that we don't get into kidney disease. And then for those people who have inflammatory diseases of the kidney, the thing to do is to continue with your follow-up, and to continue taking your medications as prescribed with your doctor. Remain healthy. When you're told to do so, hydrate.
Right.
Especially during this time of COVID-19, we've seen a lot of people having maybe parties in their house or not taking care of themselves. I was very happy to see a show just before this one where somebody was exercising in his home.
Yes, indeed. We're encouraging our viewers to join in the workout from 6:30 to 7.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
So continue exercising, hydrate, try and eat fruits and vegetables and a healthy diet as much as you're able to.
Right.
Yes.
And for someone who's perfectly healthy, they tell us to avoid the bar. Alcohol, that is.
That's what we're talking about. So yes, one of the things that people have been staying home, and you might find yourself tending towards having a lot of alcohol.
Right.
Alcohol increases your blood pressure. Alcohol lowers your immune system. So it's just a basic, everything in moderation, or not at all if you can.
Right.
Yes.
When you say moderation, it gets tricky depending on people. For some people, moderation is 12 bottles of beer.
Well, if we can avoid taking the alcohol, let's do so. But the recommended intake for men is 2 units a day. at most. That means it should be less than that. And for women, it is 1 unit a day or less than that.
Right.
Yes.
That's a real challenge.
So we've seen. We didn't think it would be, but yeah.
Right. So in summary, you're prepared for the worst, but hoping that things...
Yes. We're prepared for the worst. It is our job to be prepared for the worst. But if everybody does what they're supposed to, we will never get there. And looking back, we hope, when we're looking back at this time, that we will never get there. We will follow the rules that we have been told. And I know it is difficult, but we are investing in our future so that we never get to a bad place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. We'll come back for more. But first of all, there are events that punctuate human existence so profound that life as we know it ceases to exist. Up until this point, nuclear warheads and terrorism have been considered the greatest threat to humanity. But a virus smaller than the eye can see has proven just as deadly. It's with that NTV's Olive Barrows now asks if the COVID-19 pandemic will irrevocably change life as we've known it.
Oh my God! It was an act so brazen it reverberated across the globe, and life as we'd known it,
let's just get back,
was never the same. The shockwaves ringing to this day. 3,000 lives lost, air transport wasn't the same. Big Brother no longer bothering to hide in the shadows, a looming presence in our lives. How much more then can we expect COVID-19 to alter our way of life when the body count is in the hundreds of thousands and the enemy is no respect of persons or boundaries? New York alone laying their dead to rest in what is fast approaching the tens of thousands.
People will be more conscious going forward. And traveling now, you see, in the past it has been some countries were demanding for yellow fever certificate for you to enter their territories. Now it will be a requirement also to declare whether you are carrying any other threats.
How much of what we're experiencing now will entail the new normal, the taboo of physical contact, the distance between us?
Social distancing will be a thing of the norm, not the exception.
And now that all the arsenal in the world, tanks, fighter jets and nuclear warheads hoarded in the bowels of the earth cannot protect us, how will our understanding of show of might evolve?
The fact that they are lost and yet they have so much money and so much power and so much self-esteem and they are not able to act properly is reason enough for there to be reassessment.
Nowhere left to flee, nowhere left to turn. Each nation preoccupied with its own survival. Will COVID-19 be the Armageddon catalyst that'll finally get the researcher and healthcare worker heard?
Even when the army goes to war, they are given equipment, they are given instruments to go fight. We are sending our healthcare workers to the field empty-handed.
Physically cut off from one another under enhanced surveillance, our own phones used to track our every move. Once COVID-19 has run its course, will life change for the better or worse?
Sometimes there's a very thin line between where people's liberties end and where security begins. Now, in the wake of the current pandemic, which has the potential to really wipe out entire societies if they're not careful about it, I think there are certain compromises that the world will have to make.
Olive Barrows, NTV.
Right, and now time to bring in our correspondents from the region. We have Walter Mwesije live from our partner station, NTV Uganda. Good morning, Walter.
Good morning. Unlike what you said that I'm coming to you live from NTV, right now I am at my home, but of course we give you updates from Uganda, and I do work for NTV, that's no doubt. Ready to take you on. How is Kenya?
Kenya is good, but how's Uganda this morning? I have seen your president speaking to the nation again yesterday. What's the latest from where you are?
Yeah, well, the latest, first of all, according to the COVID-19 outbreak, is that we recorded one new case yesterday, bringing the whole total to 55 cases. And this is a gentleman who apparently is from your land in Kenya. He's a truck driver, and he was checked at the Malaba border post, and the result, of course, turning out positive. Now he's definitely under quarantine, and he will be monitored, until probably he recovers. We have 8 recoveries so far, and those 8 have been discharged. Of course, the number, is likely to go up because the ministry, on Saturday did announce a much bigger number than this. But of course, they keep on discharging them, one by one. Now, the fact that the curfew had to end on Monday, the president yesterday did address the nation once again, definitely extending the curfew time to another 21 days. And he explained that they really need these 21 days to understand the situation right now in terms of, where the infection is currently in the country, and if they could be able to pump out any other cases or probably suspected cases as well. And after the 21-day lockdown, he says then they will start to reopen up, business as usual, but, in a phased manner, because it says you can't say let schools start, yet there is no public transport. So they are going to have a meeting with cabinet in the subsequent days. They will decide on how to open up business.
Now, Walter, each country has got a different version of a lockdown, of isolation. What does a lockdown or curfew actually mean in Uganda? What are the hours? What can you and what can't you do? Which places can you not go? What are the rules of your curfew?
All right. Here, the lockdown begins at 7 p.m. sharp and ends at 6:30. And the explanation behind that from the president, he says that's the time when there is darkness. He did try to explain, from geography bit of it, that he says from the time when there is darkness, they don't expect any movements. And one issue that he also highlighted yesterday was the issue of borders or motorcycles and people using private bicycles. The police had come up to say, there should be a total ban, movement of motorcycles and use of, personal bicycles up to 2 p.m. But the president, yesterday then did highlight again they should reconsider this ban because these people still need to operate and they still need to do deliveries at home. He says this after, looking through his social media. Nowadays, he's a very, very good social media person. So he takes on people's questions and he always responds to them in his address.
And our topic this morning is about chronic illness. I wonder what steps maybe the Ugandan authorities are taking to help support or even protect, people who may be living with a chronic condition, maybe kidney disease, etc.
Yeah, this also came up yesterday in the questions that were put to the president. People who are, for example, on dialysis, palliative care, people, living with HIV and AIDS, and people with, those long life illnesses. And the concern was that, why do we have to seek permission when we are going, for example, for dialysis, and we have to first, write to the RDC or, call the RDC, who may not be available. And the president said, the LCs or the local councillors, the local area leaders, here we would call them LC1, local council 1, we have 1 up to 5. They should be able to know their kind of population and they should be able to know the people they live with. Such that if they know, this household has a pregnant mother, at this time probably it will be due date, or maybe this time they will have to go to, for a checkup in the hospital, then such people should be given, letters show that on this day or on such a date, this person has to receive their kind of treatment, and there should be no stop at any checkpoint whatsoever.
Okay, Walter, thank you for that. Do stay with us. We need to come back to you for a little more from Uganda. But staying actually in your country, 28-year-old Gonzaga Sentongo is a resident of Katabi Town Council in Wakiso District. And for the last few weeks, Sentongo has been cycling nearly 22 kilometers to Mildmay Hospital in Lueza to pick antiretroviral drugs for people living with HIV in his community. Sentongo says he makes the frequent bicycle trips because the lockdown in Uganda has made it impossible for the people who need the life-saving drugs to travel to hospital to refill their medication. Ivan Walunyoro reports.
This is Gonzaga Sentongo. He is on his way to Mildmay Hospital to collect antiretroviral medication for members of his community living with HIV. He says it's important for people who need these drugs not to miss on a single prescription because this could have a dire consequence for their health. In about an hour, Sentongo had covered his journey of over 18 kilometers and delivered the medicine to a 10-year-old girl in Nkumba. It is often hard for Sentongo to make the long bicycle rides, but he feels it is something that needs to be done.
You see that transportation has been banned, no taxi, no these kind of private vehicles. So it's really almost next to impossible and calls a lot of need and also passion in order to work out this kind of situation together.
Sentongo says during such difficult times, most vulnerable people, especially the sick, cannot access health care. This is a cause for anxiety and concern for them.
It's us, you and I. We are the one to intervene in this kind of situation.
Sentongo runs a small NGO, Newtown Africa Foundation, and it's through his work that he gets to meet different people living with HIV.
So we have their records, we know where they stay, so we can identify them by calling them, like a way of taking care of them. We call them, we find out how are they living right now.
In 1 week, Sentongo has made over 10 deliveries from different hospitals, including NTV and Mildmay. Sentongo says the youth should come to the aid of the less privileged during these difficult times.
You can visit some homes. There are people who can't fetch water.
The 10-year-old girl whom Sentongo delivered the ARVs stays with her grandmother and her sister, who says the lack of transport had already caused her sibling to go a day without a medication.
Twabadde twelaliikiridde engeri gye tunaatambulamu okuva wano okutuuka ku ddwaliro engeri ebyentambula gye byagootaanye.
Another 20-year-old resident of Kaseng is also thankful for Sentongo's help.
I really feel so good. I feel overwhelmed with this man because I don't know even how I can thank him. He really did a lot for me.
Health experts have always advised HIV-positive people to feed well, but this is not always possible.
Someone can ask you, you've given me this medicine, but will I swallow this medicine on an empty stomach?
The two say other HIV-positive people may be going through similar challenges across the country. There has been call to the Ministry of Health to collaborate with the social workers to extend health services to the people in this lockdown. Kaman Ivan Walnyolo, NTV.
Now, Walter, that's a very inspiring story from Sentongo. I wonder whether you've had any more good Samaritans who've been going out of their way to help people in these difficult conditions in Uganda?
And I must say that the story of Sentongo touched many, and he actually received a donation of motorbike, so he will no longer have to use his bicycle, to do these long deliveries. And he was very excited. He says, with a motorbike, then he can go to, longer distances. But of course, such cases are there, rarely seen because, of course, everybody is under the lockdown. We were able to, catch up on that one because our correspondent in that region, in NTV, has access to move around. But of course, when you don't have access to move around, then you may not know what's happening elsewhere. But another person I could tell you about is the DPC in one of the districts, District Police Commander of Mbale District. He picked up a lady, and of course he was receiving praises all over social media for an act of humanity. He received a phone call from an expectant mother who was actually in labor, and he drove his own car, led the ambulance to their home, picked this lady, and made sure that they were delivered to the hospital, and he actually remained to ensure that the whole process, is completed without a hassle. And he was also, part of the entire the delivery process until the baby was finally delivered.
Walter, thank you. A really good, inspiring story too. Thank you very much indeed for joining Your World this morning. I hope you keep safe in your world. Now, Dr. So, come back to the studio. This season is calling for, not calling, but people are going out of their way with acts of kindness. Usually we're celebrating, certainly in Europe, the work of people who are on the front line, like yourself, continuing to help people with illnesses to get better amid the challenges. What's the mood or the spirit with colleagues that you work with? You have to be forced to go the extra mile now?
I think the mood is stoic.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah.
When we think about it, when we talk about it, we're people like everybody else with our families, but this is what we signed up for. So it is up to us. And for example, hospitals have prepared for having to house us within the hospital compound in case the outbreak gets very bad or we don't feel like it would be safe enough for us to go home. We might take the infection home, especially people who live with, we have right now within our teams, people who have pregnant spouses or have just, had a baby and they wouldn't prefer to go home. They stay in the hospital. But I think it's preparing yourself psychologically and knowing that you have to be there for the patient no matter what. And
what's the situation at the hospital? I know the advice is to stay away unless you really have to come to hospital.
Yeah.
So are there less queues at the Nairobi hospital, for example?
Oh, yeah. I went in to see a patient in casualty the other day, and that was the only patient. And what we have done is actually removed triage. When you come in and you get assessed from inside the building, you'll now be assessed within a tent in the parking lot. Better ventilation, we are able to find somebody early in case they are a suspect to have a COVID-19 infection and isolate them very quickly, and then people who have passed through the screening now enter the hospital. But with the recommendations to stay away from hospitals, actually as doctors and as medical personnel, we've had to learn how to use technology to do telemedicine. So we're doing a lot of consultations over WhatsApp calls, Skype, Zoom, and we've found ways to deliver medications at home and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And now we are joined on the line by Dr. John Ngige, who is the head of the renal unit at the Kenyatta National Hospital. Dr. good morning and welcome to Your World.
Good morning. Good morning, Larry.
Now, I know that you have found innovative ways to offer services to your patients and others at the hospital, and you're using technology to do that. Tell me about your e-clinic. I was fascinated by what you're doing with the e-clinic. What is it all about? Hello, Dr.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Dr. Soki, for articulating the issues very well. As Dr. Soki has put it, we are facing very big challenges now, taking care of these kidney patients. Because as it is, kidney patients, by their very nature of their disease, are already immunosuppressed. And as Dr. Soki has said, we cannot afford to have them coming to hospitals and getting exposed. For us at the Kenyatta National Hospital, we have been, as before, trying very much to connect our patients using online services. For a long time, the University of Washington and Kenyatta National Hospital has been having a linkage where online learning and webinars have been going on. So we decided to leverage on this technology now at this time, particularly for our kidney transplant patients. And this is because transplant patients require follow-up on a very regular basis. They cannot afford to miss clinics. They need medication. And with these curfews, these patients' transplant follow-up would then be curtailed. So we have started online Zoom connections with our patients. And with this kind of online service, patients are able to tell us their problems. Zoom is effective enough for us to see if they have got any skin lesions. We are able to advise them on medication. We are also able to connect many patients at the same time. And we are now having like normal clinics, but virtually. What this means is, every Tuesday, as it is, just like the normal we used to have clinics, we are able to invite our patients and then give them some talks initially. And then any patient who would have now an issue would come up. We are finding this very helpful, and we hope there will be no break in care at this point in time.
And Dr. Ngigi, in terms of the renal unit, what is the impact of COVID-19 on your own operations, on your normal activities, attending to, what impact is it having on your work in treating patients?
The same case applies. Like Dr. Soki has said, we are all very careful to make sure that our patients who do come do not get exposed, and also our staff. So we have developed SOPs and protocols that make sure that the patients we get are well protected, and at the same time, our staff are also protected. Patients are masked, we keep distance, and this is really the practice that has been advised by people who have seen this before us.
Okay, Dr. Ngigi, stay on the line. We'll be back with you shortly. But first of all, let's look at some of your comments. You've been speaking to us through our hashtag New Normal and our WhatsApp line, which is just below the screen. And here are a few of what you've been talking about. Out on our hashtag New Normal. And you're saying that people are prescribing medicine for themselves. How are they doing that exactly? You don't explain, but thank you for that comment. And next one is from Benedetta Mwangi, and you're saying, yes, I live with myasthenia gravis. Gravis? I'm on immunosuppressants. It's a little tough as food prices have gone up. One drug will be used up in 2 weeks' time. I need to exercise regularly and do physiotherapy. Now I have a strain with my back since visiting hospitals is restricted. Some of the challenges that people are going through at home with the current restrictions. Mike Miner, you say that I've just discovered how unfit I am. Please continue with the segment. It's really helpful. Thanks, NTV. Well, Miner, if you can get up every morning at 6:30, join us for our workout. We'll make sure that you're as fit as anything within a few weeks. Bernard Kakai, you say that thanks have been part to you. My morning is now very active. Thank you very much indeed for joining our workout, Bernard. And another comment here from Shiro Waliz. Yes, post-kidney transplant and on medication that is supposed to suppress my immunity for the body not to be hostile to the kidney. Reports of most fatalities are people with pre-existing conditions are scary. The anxiety and panic is overwhelming. Taking all the recommended prevention measures, but still, yes, we hear you, Shiro. Thanks for that comment. And we know Otieno Radolo. Yes, battling lupus with the heart, lung, and liver involved. Whenever I hear of COVID-19 and underlying health conditions in one sentence, I get goosebumps. I've however trained myself not to go out. I only leave the house in the evening to shop for food, and I buy enough for a day. The longest time I take outside in a day is 30 minutes. That's quite a tough life for our viewer there. And I'll come back to you, Dr. Soki, to just talk a little bit about some of those comments that we've had there. But first of all, let's take a short break.
Say here comes trouble, here comes the danger, sent by the Savior, welcome the Rasta youths. I and I start recruit soldiers for Selassie army. Here comes trouble, here comes the danger, welcome the Savior, welcome the Rasta youths. They don't access and they tend to run issue in the world.
Sai niko na watoto wangu nje, sijui nitalala wapi.
Kama kuna corona Kenya tuende kazi.
This disease is not a joke.
I cannot be allowed to take trunks and foodstuffs to my kids.
Danger point number one is still public transport.
Due to the pandemic COVID-19, things changed.
Babangu mtu kuzikwa hivi kama mpo. Vile aliona hiyo video alishuka kwa gari na karudi.
4 doctors who are confirmed positive. We have 10 clinical officers.
We need to have full protective gear.
Kenyan textile industry proven that it can produce personal protective gear that doctors require.
I'm going to live at the mercy of God.
Tonight, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum from 7 p.m. on NTV with the help of a panel of experts. It shall take a peek into the last 4 months and how COVID-19 has changed the world, the family, the individual, and life as we all have known it.
This pandemic will test us, as it is testing all countries in every corner of the globe. But I don't believe that it will defeat us. If we pull together and everybody does their part, we shall overcome.
Nation Leadership Forum. Engaging society, impacting the nation.
Hi, my name is Victor Nyama. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all my fellow Kenyans peace and safety during this difficult time as we fight the coronavirus pandemic. Please follow the instructions given by the Ministry of Health as we fight this pandemic. Wash your hands thoroughly with running water and soap, or use sanitizers where necessary. Keep your environment clean. Stay at home, avoid unnecessary movement. Take the necessary precautions to keep yourself and the family safe. To my fellow athletes, please train in isolation and take the necessary precautions. We shall overcome this pandemic. May God bless you all, and God bless Kenya.
Kipi kikusi chako? Katibu kata kwa kata. Katibu msika.
Asikia kwenu mmesota mpaka mnakula na story ya nyama.
Pata uongo. Nina mwanangu mamba kama wewe.
Ready?
Let's go. Reach your elders. Help your parents. Say your prayers. Be a good child. Anything you want. Anything you want. Anything you want in life. Bend and low. Okay. Wow, you look so cute.
Peace.
This one looks good enough for you. It's so tasty and crunchy. Did you like it? I loved it. Me too. High five, CJ.
It's your boy Mash Mashabu, aka Junior Bandman. Watch Generation 3 every Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m. only on your #1 station, NTV.
Now let's have a look at the picture globally in terms of the COVID-19 situation. So far, we've got 1 million, nearly 2 million people actually, who've been tested positive across the globe. And out of this, we have 126,681 people who've actually died. If I can go to some of the individual countries, the US, for example, they've tested just over 3 million people, and they have had confirmed cases of 609,240. In Spain, they've tested positive, people who tested positive stand at 174,000, and 18,000 have died. And maybe looking at one other country, United Kingdom, which has 94,845 people who've tested positive for COVID-19, and 12,000 people, 107 have died. One more country, China itself, 85,351 who've tested positive, and in China, as it stands at the moment, 3,222 deaths reported. That's in Hubei. So that's a picture around the globe. And quickly coming back to our situation here in the region, if I can just get my screen to, yes. So that's where we're at. Let me go back to our regional pictures. Yes, this is what I'm looking for. Again, a recap of our neighbors. Tanzania, 49 people confirmed positive, 3 people have died, 7 have recovered. In Ethiopia, they've confirmed 74 cases positive, 3 people have died, 14 have recovered. In Somalia, 60 people have been confirmed positive, 2 people have died, and there have been 2 who have recovered. South Sudan stands at 4 people who've been confirmed positive. So far, no reports of death or recovery. In Uganda, as we heard earlier from our correspondent in Kampala, 54 people confirmed positive. Nobody has so far died or reported dead, and the recovery is at 47 cases. In Rwanda, 127 people have been confirmed positive. No one has died so far or reported dead, and 42 people have recovered. Burundi, 5 cases confirmed positive. 1 person has died. And coming back to the situation here in Kenya, we've tested a total of 8,827 people. And of those, 216 confirmed positive. 9 have so far sadly died. 41 people have recovered. That's the situation around the East African region, and also globally, the picture. And if I may come back to you, Dr. Soki, we had a comment there from one of our viewers, again on the difficulties of managing this condition. You mentioned some of those chronic conditions. Yeah. People are responding to them. It's quite difficult, especially if you have to find this medication. You need it weekly, you need it daily, and movement is restricted, and maybe even that availability of the medicine actually as well.
I'll give you an example. When the story came out that chloroquine might be helpful, people who have lupus use hydroxychloroquine as one of their medications, and now it's not available because everyone went and bought it everywhere around the world. And now people who have lupus are finding it very difficult to find their medication that they need. As it is, we've had issues with stocks coming into the country of medications that people are on. We've found it difficult getting tests, test reagents that we need to conduct our tests on these people. So actually, we're finding it very difficult to get diagnosis right now. Diagnosis is delayed. For these patients to come to hospital is an issue. For them to get access to their medication is an issue. And of course, this in itself causes a lot of anxiety, and all of the information that we're seeing about the disease is also causing a lot of anxiety.
How are you dealing with that? A lot of people are actually mentioning that,
yes.
Anxiety and just feeling really worried.
Yeah.
Are you now having to give support for that as well, in addition to,
Yeah, of course. So part of what we're offering, or what we have to look into, is to give advice on wellness, on remaining sane at this time. So one of the advice we actually give is to limit the amount of time that you're reading or looking at things about COVID. You know what you need to do. Stick to the defined rules right now on social isolation and on distancing, but that doesn't mean that you have to be alone. So I think social services like WhatsApp or Zoom or Skype have come into a lot of use and benefit right now. You need to keep in touch with people. As Dr. Ari said, human beings are social creatures, but at the same time, when you're at home, exercise, try and put on your mask, and within the restrictions, social distancing, try and get a walk out about, get some fresh air, give yourself a plan for the day so that you feel constructive and invest in other things to do rather than just sitting and watching the news, which can increase your anxiety.
Absolutely. And talking about technology,
Yes.
let me come back to you, Dr. Ngige. Since you started using the e-clinic and consulting with your patients using Zoom, for example, what has been the impact? Is it working?
The biggest challenge you have been having is some of our patients have no smartphones, for example, and of course they need to be connected to the internet. But for the few who have been able to access our service, it's almost life as normal, only that we are not able to see them physically. So we are able to interrogate them, they're able to give us their problems, and it's great. I find that this is one of the technologies that has been a game changer for us.
And what's the situation at Kenyatta? I know the advice, as I was asking earlier of Dr. Soki, is to ask people not to come to the hospital unless they absolutely have to. Is that the situation even at your own hospital?
Those recommendations are near universal. The patient profile is the same. And yes, we have advised our patients not to come unless they must come, unless they feel that coming will give them more good than having them exposed. So we have cut down generally on our patient clinics. And like I said, the biggest blow for us has been our transplant clinic. So we have encouraged them not to come unless they must come. And there's a WhatsApp group again that has been formed also on the side, besides the online video conferencing.
And now, Dr. Ali, there's one patient who spoke to us earlier, Onana, who said she was looking forward to a transplant, but she now doesn't know when it will happen. Do we know whether any transplants will happen in this season, or will that have to be put off maybe till we're through with COVID?
I've advised my patients, and generally as the Kenya Renal Association, we are advising our patients that transplant services are down until further notice. We are not going to do transplants until we are clear that the COVID doom is below us.
Right. And maybe just one quick question again to you, Dr. Ngige. How has your own world changed as a result of COVID? Have you had to make any changes yourself personally as a doctor?
Oh, yes, clearly. Before, you would have seen me walking around without a mask. Now, to have a mask, I'm a very social person. I would greet people with my hands on. Right now, I have to keep a distance. And of course, there's general fear generally. As a doctor, I'm always wary that any other person who comes to me has COVID unless proved otherwise. And of course, I'm on the front line. In the front line, meaning that patients coming to me are patients who are likely to have COVID. So I must be able to keep a distance and make sure that I don't get infected. And also, if I get infected, of course, the impact then to other patients. So, yes, it has created a big impact on me.
Thank you, Dr. Ngige. Do stay with us. I'm also now joined on Skype by Dr. Andrew Odhiambo, who is a cancer specialist at Prime Care Clinic. Good morning, Dr. Ari, and welcome to your world.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can indeed, and we can see you very clearly on your line. Now, you've joined us, and in our conversation, we are looking at chronic illnesses, kidney, for example, and cancer. And you're a cancer expert. I wonder what complications does COVID present to people who live or are living with cancer?
Thank you very much for that question. So, cancer patients are very unique in that they have to go to the hospital many times. And especially those who are undergoing chemotherapy and maybe radiotherapy, they have to keep going home and coming to the hospital almost on a daily or a weekly basis, and this increases their risk of getting exposure because they're coming to the hospital. Some of them have to travel. Some of them have to travel from out of Nairobi into Nairobi. They have to cross the borders. They have to sometimes use public transport, and many times their immunity is low because of the chemotherapy, and this has been thought to put the patients at a higher risk of possibly contracting with COVID-19.
So what's the advice for such people?
Well, we as part of the Secretariat of the Kenya Society of Hematology and Oncology, we have issued a statement, and we have said that cancer services are essential and they must continue. However, patients need to take several precautions. Apart from adhering to all the rules laid out by the Ministry of Health, we encourage them to spend a minimal amount of time in hospital. They have to wear masks all the time. They're encouraged to carry packed lunch from home, and we encourage them not to allow any visitors to visit them in their houses or to come and say pole or to visit them. We tell them to avoid as much contact with the outside world. They have to really strictly adhere to staying at home, no going to any public places, malls, supermarkets, salons, spas, and all the rest. And we also give them immune boosters after their treatment so that we make sure that the immunity remains at a high level. But we are continuing with the cancer services. Patients are still getting their treatment. There have been some delays and some logistical challenges because of insurance processes and ups and downs, but most patients have been able to continue their treatment. The ones who are really struggling are the ones who are getting the diagnosis now, for example. They're really panicking a lot. They're wondering whether they're going to find the doctor. I'll give you a good example of a patient I saw last week who we think she has cancer of the stomach, and she needs a test called an endoscopy test, which is a camera to look inside the stomach. But these endoscopy services, most of them have closed down because of the high risk of aerosolization of the particles and transmission of COVID. So they're really struggling to get some of these diagnostic services.
And now, Dr. Odhiambo, what is the actual threat that COVID-19 poses to people living with cancer? And is it just particular types of cancers, or are there some who are more vulnerable than others?
So that's a very good question. And there's data coming out from a series in Wuhan, which looked at about 18 patients. And we were able to see that the people who have lung cancer, for example, or who have cancers associated with long-term periods of smoking are contracting this disease more. And it is also thought that patients who have a great effect on their bone marrow, their immunity has been lowered so much, like patients with blood cancers or patients undergoing a transplantation, for example, are thought to be at a higher risk, the leukemias and lymphomas. But the data sets are very low. To the best of my knowledge, we have not yet experienced a case where I work of a cancer patient with COVID. But because the numbers might continue to rise, we might be able to see this and we'll be able to report on the findings. But majority of them are older patients, male patients, patients who have smoked for a very long time, and patients particularly who have been treated for lung cancer, because the lungs are also damaged by the cancer, and then the COVID pneumonia is also damaging the same lungs.
Dr. Odhiambo, you mentioned especially male. Is there something about men in terms of diseases? Because even with COVID, the statistics are it's hitting more men than women.
That's a very interesting question, which I do not have an accurate answer to, because most of the data sets, even if you look at just epidemiology of the Kenyan patient, for example, it's mostly men. If you look at data from Italy, data from the US, data from France, from China, obviously there are more men than women. Whether this is individual immune kind of system dysfunction, or whether this is something to do with social behaviors. Smoking rates probably are higher in men, but I really don't have the exact answer why we are seeing it more in men. I think for our region, we need to test more. Once we have tested over 100,000 Kenyans, we can be able to get figures that are more better sort of kind of validated to make such an inference.
Okay, and Dr. Odhiambo, you mentioned that the organization has been pushing that cancer patients or people living with cancer should be prioritized in this season when a lot of everything else is restricted. But I wonder, are there tips or advice you can give? Because the other thing that is affecting a lot of people is just anxiety and worry. So what's your advice to people living with cancer at home and also to their caregivers if they have someone who stays with them or lives with them in terms of managing in this very difficult situation that we're in at the moment?
So one thing I would advise them is everybody is anxious and everybody is panicking. So it's fairly normal for the patients to panic, but to reassure them that we are still there and we are offering them the service. For some of the patients who are living very far and they don't require frequent visiting, we are able to offer them video consultations through Google or through Zoom and WhatsApp, and we're able to talk, and we're doing a lot of electronic prescriptions, and we are trying to really prioritize those who really need to come to the hospital to come, but those who we can send them their medication, for example, those who are taking tablets or those who are taking non-chemotherapy treatments, we are able to send the medications to them and consult them through electronic platforms. For the caregivers, we want you to take care of these patients. Make sure that they are adhering to the social distancing. I know we are compelled as Africans to visit the sick, but these are the type of patients who we say no visitors, whether it is in the hospital or it is at home. They have to really be in their rooms. They have to really take care, be wearing masks. And most of all, if they feel they are unwell, if they're having the symptoms suggestive of COVID, then they just follow the same protocols laid out by the MOH to call 719, and we'll be able to get our team to get to them and assist them. But just remember that we are there to offer the services. Cancer treatment is still going on with the necessary precautions. Obviously, there are those patients who maybe they are extremely old, or we know they are at a very high risk of getting complications. We are kind of changing their treatment goals and moving more towards palliative care so that we don't expose them to the unnecessary risk of getting infected by the virus. But cancer treatment is going on, and we assure the Kenyans that we want them not to be very anxious.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Odhiambo, but stay on the line. I just want to move to a caller who's a guest caller who's just joined us on Skype, Job Wako. Himself a kidney transplant patient, and you've got a question. Good morning and welcome to Your World.
Thank you so much. I don't have a question right now. I'm welcome to receive any questions.
Please go ahead. Do you have a question or a comment? We've got two doctors here.
Yes. I do. In terms of COVID, as a transplant recipient and a person living with an NTV, we are constantly going to hospitals for our reviews. And given the current situation where we're told to avoid hospitals, what would the doctor say in regards to us receiving the treatment we need? Because we're always in hospitals, and now with COVID, it's considered high risk to go to a hospital. How would you advise us to deal with this current situation and managing our condition?
Okay, I'll throw that to Dr. Soki, who's with me in the studio, to see what tips or advice she can give to you and others who may be managing this condition at home in these trying pandemic times.
Hi, Joab. Actually, I know Joab well because we do a transplant support group together with his organization, which is Transplanted. And even that has had to stop in a time when we would need all the support. So there was a comment when you were reading the comments online where somebody said people are prescribing medications for themselves. And I think that's happening a lot, which is not good and which should be avoided. So as Dr. Andrew said and Dr. Ngigi said, we are able to make many of our consultations on phone. Now, one of the tricky things about transplant patients, and I'm sure that's what Joab is talking about, is that they need to get their levels of a certain drug called tacrolimus or cyclosporin, their levels in the blood every so often. And that means that they need to come into the lab, usually in the hospital. So most of the larger hospitals have come up with some contingency where, for example, at Nairobi Hospital, we are organizing to get the bloods removed at one of our more peripheral labs rather than coming into main hospital. So what we have been advising our transplant patients is come in, get your bloods out and leave. And then we will have a review of the results and then call you later in the day through telemedicine and have a video conference call or a call where we go through all of your parameters.
Contact and exposure.
Minimize exposure, minimize any contact that you're talking about. And that's probably the way to go for right now. So there's no need to, I'd really like to reassure the patients that they are not abandoned, that we are there for them. Come in, get your bloods done, and go back home. There are services now, I think other hospitals are offering, where you'd be able, somebody can come home and get your bloods from home, use those services. We are prescribing electronically. Don't come into the hospital and sit there and wait for your medications. We're prescribing electronically, get your prescription through email or WhatsApp, and get your medication delivered home. I know another issue that we have been having is availability of medications within the country. So many patients are running out of stocks. But I'll tell you, patients with chronic diseases and their caretakers are just the most amazing people. They are well prepared. They have stocks. I asked Joab, he told me he has stocks. And during this time, you see such camaraderie where people are helping each other. I know of one patient who ran out of his stocks of medication, and the other patients came together and gave him a little bit of theirs until the stocks could come back into the country. So you just see such goodwill.
Spirit of Harambe. Dr. Ngigi, if you can hear us, might you also have any additional tips for our Skype Job Wako, who's on the line, wondering what to do when he's stuck at home, unable to go to a hospital, and he is a transplant patient. Any other tips from you, Dr.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Job, for coming on air. This is the time that doctors and patients must now come together. And we are requesting our patients not to shy away, not to fear COVID too much in terms of communicating with the doctors. Dr. Soki has said a very important thing about doing tacrolimus level. What we are also doing as clinicians is to use what we call clinical acumen and looking at the trend. If you are able to look at the trend of the patient's tacrolimus level and relate that with the current test, you are able perhaps to forego a test now and push it for future. Innovatively, some patients are also, because they have to pick some drug, they are sending the less vulnerable, if you like, members of the society. They are sending younger people who perhaps they feel are less vulnerable.
Okay. Dr. thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. We hope we can catch up with you again in the course of our future programs. Thanks a lot. Now, Job, let me come back to you. So you've heard the feedback from our two doctors. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your experience, and other patients that you're in touch with. How are they coping?
So the first thing that happened when we heard about COVID, the first case, there was a lot of panic in our groups in regards to just how we are always in hospitals. I mean, groups where the people who are on dialysis as well, so they have to go to a hospital or a facility with other people involved. So you're not so sure where those other people have been, and people were panicking, were nervous about the whole situation, and knowing that we have pre-existing conditions like, kidney failure. So we are more likely to develop severe complications if we contact or we get COVID-19. So initially it was a lot of panic, and then we started now trying to encourage each other and sharing a lot of mental health, tips on how to take care of your health at home or if you have to go to dialysis. But currently with the partial lockdown in some areas, we are worried about people who have to go to dialysis, because now there's some people who are outside the area that was demarcated as enclosed. So we're wondering if those people could make it. So there are a lot of calls for people who were going to dialysis, and there are some who had issues, but then I think eventually they were sorted, because of the letter and identification where the borders or the places where they could cross, so they were able to get to their health care or the dialysis they needed to. But right now, we are obviously worried about medication. Like Dr. Sophie said, I ordered my medications from India, which went on a complete lockdown about a couple of weeks ago. And so now I can't even get my medication, So I have a stock of medication. I'm lucky, but there are some friends of mine who are not so lucky and do not have stock. And in addition to that, the shutdown has led to a socio-economic crisis where most people are not working, most people are not earning. So our medications are very expensive. So there are questions all about the group, wondering how we're going to afford our medications, what's going to happen if the government is going to step in to help us with our medication, or what is exactly going to happen. So we're just trying to encourage each other, trying to be there for each other, like Dr. Soki and Dr. Gide said, we form a team. So it's just hopefully we're going to make it through, they're going to give directives as to how people on these medications that we have to take the best way forward in regards to taking care of our health and taking care of the situation as is.
And now, Job, so just let me understand this. You say people are struggling because obviously times are hard, so even affordability, even if medicine is there, it's not easily, people don't have the money to stock up on medication, and some people have very low stocks. What does it mean when you run out of medication with a person like you in your condition? When you run out of medication, what does that mean?
So if I run out of medication, it means the worst, because I have a transplanted kidney, and so this organ is not mine. So our immunity does a great job of protecting us, but for a patient like me or someone who's received an organ, that means that our organs are going to reject, and that is the worst case scenario. We don't want that, because we did this transplant to get away from dialysis and to live a full life out there, to live freely and be able to live the most normal life we can. So if we don't get access to this medication, then it means that we will go back to dialysis, which is not going to be easy for most of us. Nobody wants to go back to dialysis or to regress. And even talking about other conditions, it means that we won't be able to manage our conditions the best way possible. And so the worst outcome would be not making it through COVID, not because of COVID itself, but because our condition is not managed appropriately.
And the final question to you, Job, how are you supporting? You say you are encouraging one another, but what kind of help, either from your association? Dr. Soki mentioned people who are doing a harambe on medication to assist someone whose situation is dire. What kind of help are you giving one another?
So right now, the help that I've seen is mostly on mental health. We're trying to see if we can find someone who's ready to help other people who've not stopped enough medication actually buy medication, because it's still early into it and we've not yet done a month, but we're trying to see how we can connect the people who are ready to help to the patients. So if anyone out there is ready to help with financially or even with medication itself, get in contact with us, Dr. Soki knows, or even Dr. Ngige, a doctor who manages chronic conditions would be able to connect these people to people who need their help.
Thank you very much indeed, Job. Now, a quick word to Dr. Odhiambo, if you're still there. We're talking about medication availability of treatment. Now, when it comes to cancer, do you have similar challenges as have just been outlined by people who have got conditions with their kidney?
So thank you very much for that question. Our cancer patients are also facing the same challenge. Maybe it is not as severe as those in the kidney patients, but there are several patients who are beginning to run out of medication, especially those who are taking the tablet types of treatment. Some of them are hormonal therapy or even targeted therapies or chemotherapy that comes in a tablet. we are really trying to regulate. And one good thing about our cancer drugs, you cannot just walk into any chemist and buy them over the counter. They have to come strictly with the prescription from the oncologist. So that is a method of self-regulation. The challenge which I'm seeing many patients are undergoing who are getting cancer treatment is the cost of the medication. And I would like to urge the NHIF team to really be lenient on these patients and to give them increased approval for their medication, because some of them, they have no source of income now. NHIF is really doing a good job to help to alleviate the financial toxicity, but this is the time we need them to actually pull up their game and actually support these patients 100% so that they don't have to suffer from the finances. Also, we urge the corporate societies of this world, give these patients relief, even if it's a free taxi ride or something, just to relieve their financial stress because of going for the treatment.
Oh, okay, Dr. Odhiambo, thank you very much indeed. Now, Dr. Soki, you reminded us about the importance of hydrating our body. So did you know that 785 million people lack even a basic drinking water service, including 144 million people who are dependent on surface water? Unsafe water kills 200 children every hour. And some facts on the importance of taking water as well. It lubricates the joints, it forms saliva and mucus, it boosts skin health and beauty, it cushions the brain, spinal cord and other sensitive tissues. It regulates body temperature, it flushes body waste, hence boosting the body immunity and helps maintain blood pressure. The airways need it, and this has to be the most interesting fact. Drinking too much water can be fatal. They call it water intoxication. Now, yesterday you sent us a lot of videos that we sadly did not have time to play on this show. But because you made the effort, well, we're also creating time today. Now, here's more on what your children understand about the COVID-19 pandemic. You also sent us suggestions of exercises you can do at home and a few games to keep you and the kids entertained.
My name is James. I have a news to make. It's for coronavirus. Because coronavirus is a bad disease, so you always have to wash your hands and you have to sanitize and wash your hands. But don't touch the floor or avoid touching your eyes and your mouth, because if you don't avoid touching your eyes and your mouth, you will get corona in your eyes and then you will just get sick, okay?
Quarantine exercise, you can do it in your house, outside the balcony, anywhere. And please hit that notification bell and subscribe. Thank you.
Cheers, man. Let's get started. You can do it, Jacob. Make it happen. Good, man. Nice press-ups. 6 more to go. Good.
Oh. Ding, 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 ding. Hey, slower. A, E, I, O. Ding, 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 ding. Bravo.
Tunataka kuwekelea hizo TV hapo ndani. Naiwachia kutoka Inadi Place.
Good job, you guys are just moving forward.
Thank you for those videos and keep them coming. #NewNormal. Now, you've also been speaking to us through #NewNormal and our WhatsApp line. These are your comments, starting with Karen Muga. Yes, asthmatic. I'm on antihistamines every day, praying that we don't experience extremes with the weather. Next one from Charity Tindoli. My grandmother is diabetic. When her medicine runs out, she experiences stress since there is imbalance of supply in the local chemists. We have to travel far to Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, Eldoret, for patches, which is too expensive. I appreciate that she's coping with this situation well. And another comment here from Faith Kemuma. Yes, asthmatic plus the allergies. It's really hard to control the sneezing. I have to stay at home because I'm afraid if I get an attack, people may think it's corona. I can't use the mask because I run out of breath. Now God, please put an end to this disease. Your people are suffering. Amen to that, Faith. And another comment from Mwitu. Yes, itching with hives, sneezing, blocked chest. You can even be suspected of corona, yet allergy worsens with stress. With the current stress, I'm just itching all through. And one other comment, this one from Douglas Etiang. It's been tough for us. My sister attends dialysis twice a week in Bungoma. Normally the fare to and from is 300 shillings, but now the COVID-19 has worsened everything. The fare is now 700 bob. That's more than double what you normally pay. We've had to provide drugs and other things for her. The situation is really tough on our side. The other day she was telling us that God had better rest her as she has become a burden to our lives. Mungu mwenyewe anajua. Thank you, Douglas. We feel you, Douglas, and all of you who are praying for Corona to go away from us as soon as possible. We'll take a short break.
Akili, 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 akili. Let's chase the germs away. Let's chase the germs away by keeping our hands clean. And when you want to sneeze or when you want to cough, do it in your elbow. Let's practice sneezing into your elbow. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Achoo! Again. Achoo! Yay! You did it! Germs, germs, germs. They make us sick. Germs, germs, germs are not our friends. Germs, germs, germs. They make us sick. Germs, germs, germs. Germs, germs, germs are not your friends.
We are no one.
Our mission is to monitor extraterrestrial activity on Earth.
Incident report.
Access denied.
There are things out there you don't need to know.
That's not the lie you told me when you recruited me.
I promise you the secrets of the universe, nothing more. Well,
You want me to jump? Time jump.
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and indigestion fast.
Right, now Dr. Odhiambo, if you're still with us, Dr. Soki has a very important question for you. You talked about immune boosters. I'll let her ask it herself.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Sophie. How are you?
I'm all right. I wanted kindly for you to clarify on your use of immune boosters. and how that happens in cancer patients, because my patients have been asking me a lot about what they can do to boost their immune system.
So thank you very much, Dr. Sophie, for that question. Now, in the cancer space, it's very specific because patients who are receiving chemotherapy, for example, and they are at a high risk of getting a low immunity, which we check by measuring the white blood cells in the blood, which fight common infections. So usually when they are getting their chemo, their white cell count tends to go down. And this is more common in those who are older and those who are having other diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and maybe those who are getting, quote unquote, a strong type of chemotherapy. We usually give them immune boosters to bring up their white cell count, which helps them to avoid getting infections, and probably even if they get an infection, it will be a mild one. Now, amidst this COVID-19 outbreak, the recommendation is to give this immune booster to a wider group of people. So we are recommending that if you're, for example, over the age of 50, irrespective of whatever chemotherapy you're getting, we should give you a few doses of the immune booster, and this should be able to help you to avoid getting infections should you be at risk.
Does that clarify?
I don't know whether this should apply in the kidney patients, because they have a different way they manage their disease. They have to take immune suppressants to keep their kidneys alive.
So that's absolutely right, because a lot of my patients have been asking what they can do to boost their immune system.
Right.
In the kidney space. So to emphasize on that, what happens, and Andrew, feel free to correct me completely. What happens is that the chemotherapy actually reduces the white cell count, and so the immune boosters return the white cell count to normal, and that is the mechanism of immune suppression with chemotherapy. On our end, our patients are immune suppressed, but because the toxins in the body do not allow the white blood cells to function normally. So the mechanism is different. If I was to give the same immune booster as Andrew gave, I would just increase the number of white blood cells, but they would still not function the way they would.
Right.
Further, our patients have an issue because we ask our patients to hydrate. People who do not have kidney disease are encouraged to hydrate and eat fruits and have a lot of vitamin C, but kidney patients many times are unable to do that because fruits have a lot of potassium, which they are unable to remove from their bodies and becomes toxic for them. And they can't drink a lot of water because they're not making any urine and there's no way for the water to go. So we actually encourage our patients to eat healthy, eat as much as they can, avoid losing weight, avoid becoming malnourished, because for them, being malnourished or being underweight is the risk factor for them to get diseases, and then for them to isolate, make sure that their hands are washed and use sanitizer. That is what we would advise for kidney patients.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Now you asked Dr. Odhiambo a question. I also need to ask you a question.
Yes.
Earlier I spoke about drinking too much water can cause water intoxication.
Yes.
What is that?
So water intoxication is usually in a situation where people drink large amounts of water, and then especially when, for example, somebody is running a marathon or is in a place where it's really, really hot. So what happens is that you get an electrolyte imbalance in your body, something called hyponatremia. Your sodium level goes down. So you get electrolyte imbalances. It basically causes your brain to swell. So taking up too much water, but that is excessive amounts of water, then can cause your brain to swell and result in confusion or seizures. Yeah, it's very rare to actually die from water intoxication, but you actually can get some
So it works very differently from alcohol intoxication.
Yes, completely. The word intoxication here is used to mean excess.
Okay.
Yes, so alcohol intoxication, alcohol affects your nerves and your ability to make judgments, sound judgments, and in that way affects your brain. Yes, so the two are completely different. But either way, excesses in terms of everything should be avoided.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Soki. Now, Kenyan comedian Henry Desagu was interviewed by the daily social distancing host Trevor Noah, and he had a very good insight as a fake expert of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Daily Social Distancing Show. How are you?
Thank you so much, Trevor. Today I feel magnathomios and glambwetete.
You are an infectious diseases expert. What makes coronavirus so different?
As a professor of immunology and microbiology from Mwehoko, that is Mwehoko Health Organization and Center for Disease Control, what makes COVID-19 very different from other viruses that we have dealt with is the 19. This is the only COVID that ends with 19.
I know this is very basic for you, but just to help everyone be on the same page, how can we catch corona and what are the areas we should be most concerned about so we know about human-to-human transmission?
The COVID-19 virus is a virus that affects Homo sapiens from class Mammalia, generally called human beings, through contacts. You see, when these COVID-19 droplets or particles get in touch with your hands or with your mouth, then they get a passage through a mucous membrane. Then through mucous membrane, they go to the esophagus. Then from the esophagus, they don't go to the stomach. They head through the respiratory system. They go through the trachea. Then they attack your lungs. You know your lungs has the left lungs and the right lungs. And then there are bronchioles. So these bronchioles and alveoli of the lungs, when they are affected, they cause inflation. That is when you start having koho. And now this koho, when you koho to somebody, the droplets jump to the other Homo sapien. But generally, it has no effect on your rough or smooth endoplasmic reticulum. It generally affects the lungs.
That's a doctor you want to avoid. Desagu, thank you for that. Now, a quick look at what the other world is up to. Football is on in Burundi amidst the pandemic facing the world. It's game on despite the COVID-19 pandemic. On Saturday, fans gathered to watch two matches in the President's Cup at Bujumbura's Intwari Stadium. And still on football, Belarus soccer team FC Dynamo decides to place mannequins in their near-empty stadium to replace fans amid the coronavirus outbreak. Supporters across the world who are able to submit their own photographs and show their enthusiasm for the game despite not being able to attend due to restrictions. Now, a father of four living in front of a hospital in downtown Barcelona is projecting messages of encouragement on the facade of the building every day. Nacho Ortuno has converted his family projector to support the medical personnel fighting the COVID-19. On the initiative's Instagram account, the family spots through the messages received from neighbors, caregivers and friends, which they then project in the evening. Nurses and doctors join in dancing at this demonstration of solidarity.
Sí, como modo de presentación. No sé. Yo no veo no, es un nexo. No sería ya.
Okay, let me now look at what you've been saying using our hashtag #NewNormal and on our WhatsApp line. So Nimo Shemi Duo, yes, allergies. I'm allergic to everything. I can't withstand the sneezing. Another one from, another comment here from Buddy Krabby. Asthmatic and at least one other condition. So I guess we're on death row. Well, not quite if you've been following the discussion here in the studio. And there's another here from Venantius Pesh. Yes, and it's not easy, taking precautions as directed, but above all, praying that God may protect us. Amen, Venantius. Other comment here from, that's it, yeah, thank you. Keep them coming on our new normal hashtag. We also encourage you, if you want to join in and perhaps send in not just your videos, but if you want to make a comment or you want to ask a question, you can join us on Skype, on WhatsApp, and on hashtag new normal. Now, people are still quite anxious out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd like us to remember that we're in this together. That from the health personnel to the people who are patients, their caregivers, families, everybody is affected. But we shall not get infected, and we will see this thing through. Yeah.
I like that. Affected, but not infected.
Yeah.
For the comment there, that viewer who just said, living with a chronic condition is like living on death row.
Yeah.
Your comment to that?
I think what he's referring to is the anxiety of it, because it doesn't necessarily mean that. Even for those people who have chronic conditions and do get infected, many will not die. So, but the thing that we have to focus on, and it's not just people who have chronic conditions, it's not the elderly, people who are in their 30s, in their 20s, and even children have passed away. So it is up to all of us to be responsible. And if one of us got it, who didn't have a chronic condition, you might not be very severely affected, but then you would pass it to the people that you love, people who are older, people who have chronic conditions, or you might not pass it to somebody that you love, but you might pass it to somebody who is a friend of, So it is all up to us to be responsible in this time. And we shall conquer. So it just takes discipline. And I think perhaps in our lifetimes, it is a credit to us, it is a credit to our society, it is a credit to our country that we have never needed to deal with something like this before. We've never had war, we've had hard times, but we've been relatively safe and we've been able to get access to services and everything. So it is time for us to band together, it is time for us to be each other's caretakers, and we shall overcome this thing.
And just a question I threw to Dr. Ngigi, but maybe also to yourself.
Yes.
Just to clarify that, in this season where we're at the moment,
Yes.
it's not going to be possible to carry out any transplants, for instance, kidney transplants.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we performed our last transplant on the 17th of March. And it is a cause of anxiety to all of us when this patient needs to come into hospital and for us to have a look at him and to do his levels and to get his medications. And that was the last transplant that we did. And it was because it was planned for a long time. But the problem with transplanting people right now is we have to severely suppress their immune systems for them to accept the kidney, especially in the initial post-transplant period, immediately after transplant. So for us, we had to sit down and think about it and talk about it as the nephrologists of Kenya Renal Association, and we decided that the risk was too high, that for us to suppress anybody's immune system right now, unless it was completely mandatory, for example, with the cancer patients, is unethical, because we would be putting them at a greater risk of getting a very severe COVID-19 infection. So we had a number of patients who were scheduled to undergo their transplants, and we have had to hold off on the transplants for now until we have decided, or it has been declared, that the COVID-19 pandemic is over.
So for people like the patient we heard from earlier,
Yes.
Onana, who was on the waiting list for an operation, what do you do? Because the other thing about Corona is that there are no time frames.
Yeah.
So do people just hang on?
So for our dialysis patients, they will continue with dialysis for now. And unfortunately, we will have to wait. So we are hoping to see the coronavirus pandemic through, and then all of them are ready. Their lab works are done, their donors are ready, and immediately we get a go-ahead that now the risk of coronavirus is down, we will start transplanting.
And people had come forward in terms of, as you say,
Yes.
donors who were willing to help
Yes.
in this?
Yes. If you're a doctor in transplant medicine, I can tell you it restores your belief and your trust and your love of humanity completely, because you will find people who come in and their loved one has a need. Somebody who is related to them, your sibling, your parent, your child, and they'll say, I will give one of my kidneys, and they do.
So, and it also means pretty much operations, unless they are life-saving, have really come
Yes.
to a halt in hospitals. Is that?
Absolutely. We are no longer doing any elective surgeries. So only emergency surgeries have been done.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll ask you one more time for people who may have joined us late, to take, in terms of taking care of our kidney and general immunity. And tomorrow we actually have a full discussion on
Yes.
how to boost our immunity and
Yes.
nutrition and so on.
Yes.
But I found your tips very useful in terms
Yes.
of what you can do, A, if you're healthy, or B, if you worry that perhaps you may not be in a very good situation health-wise,
Yes.
in terms of trying to maintain, as it were.
Maintain your health.
Yeah.
So we find ourselves at home for most of us. We find ourselves quarantined to a small distance. I was really happy to see your show on exercise in the morning. So it is important for us to exercise. It boosts your immune system. It is important for us to eat healthy. So what happens when we stay home, and I've seen a lot of funny cartoons and memes about it, is people tend to put on weight, people are eating unhealthy, people are eating because of boredom. So you need to be very careful about what you eat. This is the time to start your cooking hobby on healthy diet. And so exercise, eat healthy, hydrate, and keep mentally healthy also. So we talked about limiting the amount of time that you actually read about coronavirus and read about what is happening in the world. Learn to do relaxing things that you enjoy. Try and get some fresh air, walk outside, wear your mask, keep social distance, so maybe about 15 to 30 minutes, go for a walk if possible. Basically, we've asked our carers and our patients who are stuck at home to keep themselves an itinerary of what to do during the day, give themselves a schedule, so that they avoid watching too much content and engage their minds. For the kidney patient, one of the best ways, people who don't have any chronic illnesses, that's not kidney disease, are encouraged to eat a lot of fruit and to drink a lot of water, which might not be possible for the kidney patient because it interferes with their potassium levels, and they don't make urine, so you drink water and it doesn't come out. So what we advise for kidney patients in this time is to continue with the renal diet that they have been advised, to avoid losing weight, to avoid getting malnourished, to avoid missing their dialysis sessions as much as possible. And many kidney patients, for example, the transplant patients and those who have chronic kidney disease that is not at the level of dialysis, many of them are on immune suppressants, actually suppressing their immune system. And many, even the lupus patients are on these things. And many patients have considered going off their medications because they're so anxious. But we have to think about the long term also. COVID-19 pandemic will end at some point, God willing. So we have to think about our lives after that. So we must still continue being healthy. Don't give up on your medications. Just follow the rules that we have talked about: social distancing, hand washing, leaving the house and interacting with people as little as possible.
And just without preempting what we're going to talk about tomorrow,
yes.
When you say eat healthy, what does that actually mean?
So that's a balanced diet,
right.
Isn't it? So we'll avoid excesses. Drink a good amount of water. Drink fresh fruit juices if you're able to. Eat your vegetables. Eat a small amount of starch. Exercise. That's a balanced diet. Avoid a lot of ordering in and junk food. Avoid a lot of alcohol. I think because of maybe boredom in the house, I'm not sure, as medics, our lives have not changed much. We still wake up, we go to work.
Right.
But avoid excesses of alcohol. Ideally, most people don't take alcohol on most days. So we're still going to continue with that. Yes.
Absolutely. Dr. Ari, thank you
Yes.
very much indeed for those tips. Remember, you can join us tomorrow. We'll have a much wider discussion on nutrition and how to boost your immunity. We also want to hear from you. We encourage those videos that you're taking with your family. What games are you playing? What tips, how are you exercising? What are you eating actually? And what are you cooking? Send those to us, #NewNormal. And we also would encourage you as well to share whatever questions and comments that you might have. But just before I go, let's have a look at what you've been saying through our #NewNormal and on our WhatsApp line. This is Kanu Diaspora Team Kanu. Who is Team Kanu? Right. New normal, yes, it's hard, but we must stay indoors. I agree with you 200%. Thank you so much, Kanu Diaspora. Another one here from Benjamin Magonda. You said that new normal, #NewNormal, yes, they're here in Kenya and Uganda while you're recording new cases of COVID-19. Wuhan, China, where it's believed it started, is being declared that it's no longer there. Even the makeshift facilities that were earmarked for curbing the pandemic is being shut down. And you say you're tuned in from Magongo in Mombasa. Shukran sana kwa kutizama kipindi hiki cha Your World. Thank you very much indeed for your comments. And we're coming to a close now. Yesterday, we did not have a challenge, but today we've got one. We have another interesting one, and here's what you need to do. Record yourself drinking a glass of water, go to any of your social media platform and tag who you think is the hottest person on your timeline, not hot temperature. I will do the same on At Your World, and remember to use the #NewNormal. Again, drink a glass of water, record yourself doing that, post it and tag the hottest person in your timeline. Post it using #NewNormal. I'll lead the way. I have to be careful not to suffer from water intoxication. Till tomorrow, before you join us at 7, come for a bit of exercise. Join us at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. We have our trainers, professional trainers, ready to take you through some routines at home. Until then,